Hey and welcome to my little video series where I just kind of want to talk about games I recently played that stayed in my mind. It doesn't have to be a good game, it doesn't have to be a bad game, it just has to be a game that makes me want to talk about it in a specific video or special video where I just want to talk about it. And recently I played Splatoon 1. Also, I'm doing these videos that kind of freestyle, like I'm not writing a script for beforehand, so I could be all over the place. But I played Splatoon 1 on the Wii U, mostly an emulator, because, well, it runs really great on it. And it's kind of important to say that because I was kind of surprised with how great the game actually looks like. But on the Wii U, obviously it runs at 720p. I could play it on 1080p. I even could play it with anti-aliasing. I was actually surprised with how well the game looks like. I was really like, wow, I really love the graphics in this game. But we come to that later. Obviously, Splatoon is a franchise that's kind of unique in its own way. And the thing is, I was always interested in trying these games out, but I always thought, I would not like the multiplayer aspect of the game. Sometimes I saw people say the single player is really great too, but I was like, maybe it's more like a tagged on in the thing where people play it for a little bit and then go like, oh, no, I'm kind of it's a tutorial for the multiplayer. But it's a whole own campaign where you basically learn the combat and everything and the mechanics, but it's its own thing. You learn about the things in the multiplayer, but it's not just, something that makes you feel, they didn't care about this too much. It really feels like they cared about it as much as the multiplayer, which I never played in my life before. I never even played the free-to-play weekends or the ones before the game came out. Splatoon 2 and 3 got free-to-play Sweatfest or whatever. Or test fires where you can play the game, to test it, to buy it, because it's a unique thing where not everyone will know that they will enjoy it or like it. So they were like, hey, you can play this for free and see if you like it or not. But I never did that because I kind of know I wouldn't like the multiplayer aspect of them. But I was like, hey, people always say the single player of these games are really great too. So I played it and I was like, they're right. It's really fun. It's a very unique feeling that made me long for more. I wanted to immediately go out and buy Splatoon 2 and 3 afterwards, which I would probably do. And then I can even play the multiplayer, or at least try it out. But the single player is such a unique experience with how the shooting, it's a third-person shooter, but it's very different from normal third-person shooter, which is, kind of obvious. It feels like a third-person jumping one. People always recommend Titanfall 2 when you want a shooter, a third-person shooter, or it's a first-person shooter, so it's a little bit different. They recommend that one for really weird movement, wall running and things like that. I never played Titanfall so far. I will do that too. That's the other one that people always kind of recommend as some kind of jumping one, platforming kind of shooter game. But Splatoon must be the king for me because I never played a game like that, and I just wish there would be more like these, where you actually have a campaign where it's not just shoot, take cover behind the covers, and then, continue when you shoot all the enemies. It's you actually have to kind of think about the mechanics, in this level that you can see in the background. I had to shoot the propellers to move the platforms, and there's also a hub world. In the hub world, you have, even the hub world itself is a level where you have to look for the levels because they're invisible, and you have to splat ink on them or color on them to actually unlock them. So you go through the hub and you look for those things, but on the way there you can splat the walls, and there's so many mechanics you can use in the hub world, going up the walls, going through fences, the zap lines, and you even just finding the levels is a level itself in a way. Obviously not very huge, but it is fun. In a way, it's I love games that actually make the hub world a level or mechanic itself too, where you don't just pick the level, but you kind of have to do something there. And in the background, you can also see the game has lore. In every level, there's a hidden scroll hidden that teaches you about the lore of Splatoon. And you wouldn't really think it has a lot of lore, but there's this Octolink against Gridlink war going on, or it was in the past, and it's kind of happening again, and it teaches you that humans were actually a thing back in the day, but they went extinct, and now the squids and octolinks live here, things like that. It gives it another special edge over where you kind of think, this is just a multiplayer shooter, but it has so many lore implications when you care about those things. Obviously some people will just buy the game, play the game, they don't care about the lore, but it is nice for people who care about those things, and it's kind of, it goes deeper than you might think. Obviously, the sad thing is I can't really, on the first game at least. I can't really, go into the stores to buy stuff because I can afford, in the single player you can also unlock things for the multiplayer, but you can't. You just unlock things. Like if you beat the game, you get like an extra outfit, but the pearls you collect in the levels are like for upgrades for the single player. You can't go and buy outfits for the multiplayer for that, which I can afford. I can afford. Maybe I can actually dress my Splatoon girl in an outfit, but you cannot just have this specific outfit made for the single player, because whenever I see people play the game, it's like, wow, look at these squidlings having the drip of their life, like drip out of their wazoo minds. And it has a very cool, unique look. Just like I said, the graphics really make me think, holy shit. Like obviously my bit rate and everything, because I streamed it, and I have to look at my own recording, doesn't make you think, wow, this is the best looking game ever, but it really surprised me. Obviously, higher resolution and things like that because of an emulator. But still, it made me think, it has this very post-apocalyptic world feeling, but in a very cute and colorful way. It's like a little bit like the new Kirby game, where it's an apocalyptic world, but it's still very colorful. Like it does, like apocalyptic for most people means like something like Fallout, where no colors can be seen. And post-apocalyptic worlds like that can work too, but I like them when they're already colorful again too. And I'm pretty sure, if there's like an apocalyptic war going on in real life, the color wouldn't just suddenly be gone too, especially after a long time passed. So I kind of like the look of Splatoon, it's like really drippy. Like it's not a game that you would think Nintendo made with how cool everything looks. I think everyone knows how Splatoon kind of got made. It was like supposed to be like a Mario spin-off, and they were like seeing it at the bloopers. They were like, the bloopers? And then they, brainstormed and they turned the bloopers into like kids, and you're a kid now. And it's really cool. Like, it really made me think, I really want to play the other games. But anyways, there's not that much more to say. But the single player, basically, like I said, you get into the subworld that you can see right now, and you have to find these things. You go in, and then the levels are like every level has like a gimmick thingy where there's like propellers, there's these zap lines that get introduced, and the farther you get into the game, the more mechanics are actually like there's these gushers introduced, and it teaches you about shoot them and you go up high, and every level adds a little bit new enemies, new mechanics, new this and that. And the closer you get to the end of the game, the more the mechanics get meshed together, or meshed, because at the end you have like every mechanic in every level, because obviously it gets a little bit harder. Like the game isn't necessarily too hard, and sadly it's really short. I took only like 3 hours. I didn't got all the scrolls. Like looking for the scrolls would actually take a little bit more, because they're kind of fairly well hidden in some levels, and other levels they're basically on the main track almost. And the final showdown of the game, the final boss, is more like a level itself with a boss instead of the level. It goes a little bit on too long, and spoilers, I guess. Like you fight like this big Octo Javier DJ dude, and he flies like through the level, and before you move on in the level, you always have to like hit his hands back and things like that. And it goes on a little bit too much. Like it goes on and on and on. And luckily I did it first try. I'm pretty sure if you die, you have to reset the whole stage, and I would have got tilted by that. Like the final boss goes a little bit too long. But maybe it has checkpoints. I didn't die. God Gamer himself. So I can't really know if it would have been a bad thing if it restarts you. If it restarts you, I feel bad for the people who got to the end and then died. And it's basically accumulation. You've learned everything. Everything gets used. There's snipers enemies. Sometimes he's sniping you. There's like things flying at you. There's the gashas. Do you have to jump, zap lines? And it's like a really great final boss, especially with the Squid Sisters coming in with their song and going like crazy, singing. Really great song. And in general, like the presentation, the songs, it has this soundtrack that makes you think some people just took like random things, random instruments. Obviously, the thing is, I have no idea about music theory. I don't know how music really gets made, how you have to think and approach it. So it looks like I'm insulting it, right? While I'm saying like, oh, they took random instruments. It sounds like it, but they make it work, Like it's a very... It sets, like, I never heard anything like Splatoon music before, and it has some actual really crazy bangers, and especially the Squid Sister songs, and also, in the other games like Off the Hook and now the newer ones, which I don't know the name of yet, I don't know the name. I watched the direct where they said the name, but I kind of don't know anymore. But one of them is called Fry, like fried fish. No, I'm kind of hungry. But you know, in the game, it really surprised me, and it made me think, hey, you know, I want to buy 2 and 3 now, and I even want to play the multiplayer, but I would first play the single player. So I would really recommend this to anyone who wants to have like very like it's really hard to describe. Like I would call it a third person jump and one shooter. And the sad thing is that you will never find something like this again. Like you can't find another you turn into a squid thing to run around with kind of game. That's like the sad part about it. Like there will be nothing except Splatoon. Like you will get addicted to the single player of Splatoon because it's just so much fun. And there will be nothing that makes you think, hey, you know, I can play this game when I've beaten them. I mean, it actually as I could see myself coming back and playing it again because it's short, it's fun. You know, it just made me kind of amazed with how nice it actually was. I expected to have fun, but I didn't expect fun that made me think, hey, you know, this could be my, I wouldn't say like favorite game of all time, but I would surely say it is a game that made me think, hey, like I can't compare to anything. Like I can't say it's my favorite shooter because other shooters are like so different, and I can't really say it's my favorite jumping one because it's not really a jumping one either. It's like something so unique, it makes you think, holy shit, like there's nothing to compare to. It's kind of like Portal in a way. Like Portal, I love Portal, but Portal can't, I mean, it's a puzzle game, but it's more like a very different kind of puzzle game than something like Tetris. Like, you know, video game genres have like many genres, but sometimes, you know, there will never be something that will describe what you want, sadly. You know, where's these Splatoon clones at? You know, like there's always clones for everything. Even though, you know, if you think about it, there's like no real Zelda clones. The only really game that gets cloned a lot is like Mario, but you know, like Zelda, there's many 2D Zelda clones, but there's never like a really huge 3D Zelda clone. And maybe one day, and hopefully it will be great, because the more the better. You know, even if it's like, even if it feels stolen, I don't think clones are that bad. You know, look at Genshin. I'm not a Genshin player, and it probably does like good things, like Mona's ass. But yeah, I would recommend Splatoon 1. The thing is, the reason I read that like a few days ago they turned off the servers for like a time, but I'm pretty sure, you know, Nintendo was like, yeah, let's take the Splatoon servers off and Mario Kart 8 2 on the Wii U. So you know, there's like no reason to buy it on the Wii U. It runs perfectly fine on an emulator, and you know, wink wink, I will leave you, and we will see again. We will see it again, maybe, probably in another live. If you enjoyed the video, you know, maybe you enjoyed it, me talking about a game, and then you can watch the other two Today I Played videos, or maybe the future ones too, if you enjoyed it. But yeah, I recommend it so much. The one thing I have to tell you though later is that there's motion controls at the very starting tutorial, so you have to kind of bind it onto your mouse, and you have to aim with the mouse, and the other controller is in your hand, and then you just have to get through the tutorial, and then after the tutorial you can turn off the motion controls, and then, you know, it will be fun. Because, well, playing with a mouse and the gamepad is kind of weird. That's just what I wanted to say at the end still, so, you know, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, great, because I enjoy you too.